Good morning, children. Here I am with the second part of the video of the chapter The Making of the Regional Culture, chapter number 9. Children, in the previous video, we have discussed that we identify people with the languages they speak, the clothes they wear, the dress, their food, their lifestyle, etc. The present day boundaries that we see of the states was the result of intermixing of local culture with the other cultures of the subcontinent. So it was a complex process. Then we have also discussed about the Cheras and the development of the Malayalam language. Then we have discussed about the rulers and their religious traditions. Especially we focused on the Jagannatha cult. Then we have discussed about the Rajputs and their tradition of heroism. We have also discussed about the story of Kathak, how Kathak evolved as a dance form, isn't it? So, in today's video, we will proceed further and we will focus on the region which is known as Bengal. Okay, so let's start. Children, now let us discuss about the tradition of miniatures. Another tradition that developed in different ways was that of miniature painting. Miniatures, as their very name suggests, are small sized paintings generally done in watercolor on cloth or paper. The earliest miniatures were on palm leaves or wood. Some of the most beautiful of these, found in Western India, were used to illustrate Jaina text. The Mughal emperors Akbar, Jahangir, and Shah Jahan patronized highly skilled painters who primarily illustrated manuscripts containing historical accounts and poetry. These were generally painted in brilliant colors and portrayed court scenes, scenes of battle or hunting, and other aspects of social life. They were often exchanged as gifts and were viewed only by an exclusive few. With the decline of the Mughal Empire, many painters moved out to the courts of the emerging regional states. As a result, Mughal artistic taste influenced the regional courts of the Deccan and the Rajput courts of Rajasthan. At the same time, they retained and developed their distinctive characteristics. Portraits of rulers and court scenes came to be painted, following the Mughal example. Besides, themes from mythology and poetry were depicted at centers such as Mewar, Jodhpur, Bundi, Kota, and Kishangarh. Another region that attracted miniature paintings was the Himalayan foothills around the modern day state of Himachal Pradesh. By the late 17th century, this region had developed a bold and intense style of miniature painting called Basaholi. The most popular text to be painted here was Bhanu Datta's Ras Manjari. Nadir Shah's invasions and the conquest of Delhi in 1739 resulted in the migration of Mughal artists to the hills to escape the uncertainties of the plains. Here they found ready patrons which led to the founding of the Kangra school of painting. By the mid 18th century, the Kangra artists developed a style which breathed a new spirit into miniature painting. The source of inspiration was the Vaishnavite tradition. Soft colors, including cool blues and greens, and a lyrical treatment of themes distinguished Kangra painting. Remember that ordinary women and men painted as well on pots, walls, floors, cloth, work of art that have occasionally survived, unlike the miniatures that were carefully preserved in palaces for centuries. Children, now let us have a closer look of Bengal, the growth of a regional language. As we saw at the outset, we often tend to identify regions in terms of the language spoken by the people. So, we assume that people in Bengal always spoke Bengali. However, what is interesting is that while Bengali is now recognized as a language derived from Sanskrit, early Sanskrit texts suggest that the people of Bengal did not speak Sanskritic languages. How then did the new language emerge? From the 4th, 3rd centuries BCE, commercial ties began to develop between Bengal and Magadha, which may have led to the growing influence of Sanskrit. During the 4th century, the Gupta rulers established political control over North Bengal and began to settle the Brahmins in this area. Thus, the linguistic and cultural influence from the mid Ganga valley became stronger. In the 7th century, the Chinese traveler Zhuangzhang observed that languages related to Sanskrit were in use all over Bengal. From the 8th century, Bengal became the center of a regional kingdom under the Palas. Between the 14th and 16th centuries, Bengal was ruled by sultans who were independent of the rulers in Delhi. In 1586, when Akbar conquered Bengal, it formed the nucleus of the Bengal Suba. While Persian was the language of administration, Bengali developed as a regional language. Early Bengali literature may be divided into two categories, one taken from Sanskrit and the other independent of it. The first includes translation of the Sanskrit epics, the Mangal Kavyas, and the Bhakti literature such as the biographies of Chaitanya Deva, the leader of the Vaishnava Bhakti movement. The second includes Nath literature such as the songs of Mainamati and Gopi Chandra, stories concerning the worship of Dharma Thakur, and fairy tales, folk tales, and ballads. The texts belonging to the first category are easier to date, as several manuscripts have been found indicating that they were composed between the late 15th and mid 18th centuries. Those belonging to the second category circulated orally and cannot be precisely dated. They were particularly popular in eastern Bengal, where the influence of the Brahmanas was relatively weak. Now let us discuss about the pirs and temples. From the 16th century, people began to migrate in large numbers from the less fertile western Bengal to the forested and marshy areas of southeastern Bengal. As they moved eastward, they cleared forest and brought the land under rice cultivation. Gradually, local communities of fisher folk and shifting cultivators, often tribals, merged with the new communities of peasants. This coincided with the establishment of Mughal control over Bengal, with their capital in the heart of the eastern delta at Dhaka. Officials and functionaries received land and often set up mosques that served as center for religious transformation in these areas. The early settlers sought some order and assurance in the unstable condition of the new settlements. These were provided by community leaders who also functioned as teachers and adjudicators and were sometimes ascribed with supernatural powers. People referred to them with affection and respect as peers. This in turn included saints or Sufis and other religious personalities, daring colonizers and defied soldiers, various Hindu and Buddhist deities, and even animistic spirits. The cult of peers became very popular and their shrines can be found everywhere in Bengal. Bengal also witnessed a temple building spree from the late 15th century, which culminated in the 19th century. We have seen that temples and other religious structures were often built by individuals or groups who were becoming powerful to both demonstrate their power and proclaim their piety. Many of the modest brick and terracotta temples in Bengal were built with the support of several low social groups, such as Kolu, they were oil peasants, and the Kansari, they were bell metal workers. The coming of the European trading companies created new economic opportunities. Many families belonging to these social groups availed of these. As their social and economic position improved, they proclaimed their status through the construction of temples. When local deities, once worshipped in thatch huts in villages, gained the recognition of the Brahmanas, their image began to be housed in temples. The temples began to copy the double-roofed dochala or four-roofed chochala structure of the thatched huts. This led to the evolution of the typical Bengali style in temple architecture. In the comparatively more complex four-roofed structure, four triangular roofs placed on the four walls move up to the converge on a curved line or a point. Temples were usually built on a square platform. The interior was relatively plain, but the outer walls of many temples were decorated with paintings, ornamental tiles, or terracotta tablets. In some temples, particularly in Vishnupur in the Bankura district of West Bengal, such decoration reached a high degree of excellence. Now let us discuss fish as food of Bengal. Traditional food habits are generally based on locally available items of food. Bengal is a riverine plain which produces plenty of rice and fish. Understandably, these two items figures prominently in the menu of even poor Bengalis. Fishing has always been an important occupation and Bengali literature contains several references to fish. What is more, terracotta plaques on the walls of temples and viharas depict scenes of fish being dressed and taken to the market in basket. Brahmanas were not allowed to eat non-vegetarian food, but the popularity of fish in the local diet made the Brahmanical authorities relax this prohibition from the Bengal Brahmins. The Brihadhamma Purana, a 13th century Sanskrit text from Bengal, permitted them to eat certain varieties of fish. So children, this is the end of the chapter. We will come back soon with a new video based on new chapter. Till then, goodbye.